What is happening, Magnus? Has the villain, has a secret villain for Doctor Strange 2, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, been revealed?
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU. I'm your host, Warren Thompson, and it looks like fans might have spotted a secret villain hiding in one of the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness trailers. Now, I personally think that there is a secret villain to Multiverse of Madness that hasn't been revealed yet or hasn't really been talked about too much yet, and I'm going to talk about it in this video. And of course, if you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest news. Let's dive into it. So this came out in the trailer that Marvel Studios posted when tickets went on sale for Multiverse of Madness. It was titled Marvel Studios' Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness Dream. And I actually think that what we're about to look at is a face, and I think that there's a lot more to dissect in this Dream trailer now that we see this face. But let's take a look at this. It's literally in the very beginning of this trailer. It literally starts at 0 seconds. The Marvel Studio logo comes into the screen, and what appears to be a face, a very menacing face, starts to form right below the studio logo in the middle. Now, this looks very intentional, and we know Marvel Studios is intentional with pretty much everything that they do. If we take a look at the rest of the background during this part where the logo is showing, we can see that pretty much everything else seems to be pretty random, and this face seems to be pretty clear. So a lot of fans are thinking that this is actually something put in there very secretively to represent a villain of the film. And even if you don't think that this is an actual face, even if you think that this is just random lines that just so happen to form a face, I'm still going to be going over different villains that could be appearing in Multiverse of Madness because it just makes sense. I do believe that there is a secret villain in Multiverse of Madness that hasn't truly been revealed yet. Now, don't get me wrong, I still think that the Scarlet Witch is the main villain of this film. Her and another variant of herself, I think, are going to be the main antagonists. However, as I've been stating in my previous videos, I do think Wanda is going to be somewhat manipulated by someone or something. It could be another Scarlet Witch variant that is manipulating her, one that is much more evil. Or there could be another being out there like Cthulhu. Given all of the connections, there are many different villains that could actually fit into Multiverse of Madness very well, that could be manipulating Wanda. So, let's talk about who these villains could be. Pretty much it's narrowed down to about 3 different villains. And here's the thing, each of these villains makes sense. So it could be either one of these villains. Now to start off, talking about Marvel Studios hiding things, in one of the first posters that we got for Multiverse of Madness, the one with all of the shattered pieces of glass, fans did spot a creature, a monster, a being of some sort in one of the pieces of glass that wasn't really in any of the trailers at that point in time. It was a creature that looked an awful lot like the comic version of Cthulhu, who was the first villain that this very well could be. Now, in a trailer that was released later on, we go on to see not one but 2 beings that look exactly the same, that look like this monster that is in the broken piece of glass here. And yet again, this monster now on screen looks an awful lot like the comic version of Cthulhu. And we can't ignore the major connection that Wanda has to Cthulhu and the Darkhold as well. We've talked about this many times before on the channel, but Cthulhu created the Darkhold. Cthulhu was one of the original gods of the universe, but him, along with many other of the original gods, turned into essentially demons. And Cthulhu was learned in the magical arts, dark sorcery, and he took everything that he knew and he wrote it down on indestructible parchment. He put all of the pages together and then bam, the Darkhold was formed. Then, not to mention, on Wundagore Mountain, before he was kicked out of the Earth's realm, right before he left, he touched an infant child. This child was Wanda Maximoff, and he imprinted upon her his chaos magic, and he intended on her to be a vessel eventually for him to return, a body for him to possess, which could be something that is happening in Multiverse of Madness. Now, we know Wanda. She isn't evil, although she did enslave a whole town, but she didn't do it because she was an evil being. She did it because she was in mourning. Now, of course, too much tragedy can break somebody, and Wanda has been through her fair share of tragedy, which kind of makes her vulnerable to influence, essentially. And if you're Cthulhu, you're thinking this is the perfect time to strike. However, I actually think Wanda might be too powerful now for even Cthulhu. I do think that he could be influencing her, but then I think she's going to catch on to what is actually happening. then I think she might actually kind of control him. And that could be what we're seeing in these trailers. That could be Cthulhu, except Wanda might be in charge and not him. And as far as there being two of these creatures, well, it's the multiverse. Anything could happen. We're going to see a lot of different variants of a lot of different characters. But of course, there are other villains that have major connections to Wanda. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to say the M word, Mephisto. Yes, Mephisto has kind of become somewhat of a joke now. But we really can't argue that Mephisto has major connections to Wanda, especially her and her twins. Now, in WandaVision, Wanda had her twins, and then they were taken away from her at the end. This is kind of similar to what happens in the comics. Now, in the comics, Wanda and Vision have twins, but Vision's an android, so how exactly do they do that? Well, they say it was Wanda's magic that caused her to get pregnant. Basically what happens in WandaVision. However, later on we go to find out that these were actually pieces of Mephisto's soul. Wanda has the twins, but eventually Mephisto takes them back. And this is kind of what sets Wanda off on a really bad path. And this is actually the story that we're seeing here in Multiverse of Madness. Wanda is going on a killing spree because she's doing whatever it takes to get back her children. Marvel Studios made that very clear with their last trailer that showed the twins in it. And here's a very interesting thing about this trailer where we supposedly see this face. It starts off by showing Doctor Strange looking at a pretty much destroyed sanctum, and the sanctum is standing alone. When he goes to the door, on the door we see two different faces that kind of do look like Mephisto. If not Mephisto, they definitely look like another being. But let's keep in mind that this trailer is titled Dream, but then Wanda says it's a nightmare, and Nightmare is the third villain of who the secret villain of this movie could be. I'm sure some of you remember that the very first Doctor Strange film was actually supposed to have Nightmare as the main villain. This didn't happen, obviously. Dormammu was the main villain, but they decided that Nightmare was going to be the main villain of the second film. But that was with director Scott Derrickson. And as most people know, Scott Derrickson and Marvel Studios parted ways, and now Sam Raimi is directing Multiverse of Madness. So that very well could have changed, but we do know that a script was written for Doctor Strange 2 that had Nightmare as the main villain. And this trailer definitely gives off major Nightmare vibes, and Wanda even says Nightmare in it. You have to wonder, why is Doctor Strange having the same dream every night?
That could definitely be it.
Having the same dream every night, which is actually a nightmare.
That fits right in.
Actually be the work of Nightmare. Could he be the villain that is behind everything? Now again, just to reiterate, I think eventually Wanda realizes that she's being influenced and either becomes good or kind of embraces the chaos here, harnessing all of the power that she can to go and retrieve her children to finally be at peace. And this is actually a pretty big debate right now within the fandom. If Wanda is truly the main villain, in which we all believe that she is, how should the movie end? Should it end with her becoming good? Should she die? Or should whatever being is possibly behind her be finally ripped out of her, and then her and Doctor Strange go on to fight that being? I definitely don't think that she is going to die, especially
whatever makes the most badass movie possible.
Signed a new contract
That's what I want.
And that there's going to be more upcoming Scarlet Witch projects. But let me know what you think. You think there's another villain hiding in Multiverse of Madness that hasn't been revealed yet? Do you think that this is a face? I personally think it looks like an evil group, kind of. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news. For live updates, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.
I'm going to go with that Nightmare. I'm going to go with Nightmare. Considering what you said about the past movies and what the villain was supposed to be, them talking about the dream and her talking about Nightmare, I think there we go. If there is a secret villain, it's Nightmare. That's my choice. Post comments down below. Let me know what you all think, though. If you enjoyed my reaction, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and share, and subscribe to the Cosmic Wonder. And if, I forgot what I was going to say. 10 million subscribers.